Dark Shadows, number 37, VTR 8366, air 81666, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Barely 4 hours since I decided once again to stay in Collinwood. And now sleep refuses to come. Not only for me, but for a man whose tension, hour by hour, seems to be rising closer to the surface.
You got the wrong number.
Don't hang up. Evans, don't hang up.
What do you want now?
Peace of mind, Evans. Complete peace of mind.
Well, it's just about 10 years too late for that, Collins.
I don't want epigrams from you, Evans. I want to know what you've done about Burke.
Nothing.
But you're not serious.
Collins, I told you earlier this evening that I tried to talk about him out of having me do his portrait. But he refused. Now, why in heaven can't you just leave it at that and accept it?
Then you haven't talked to him again.
Well, what do you expect? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Do you want me to rouse the man out of his sleep?
I know what time it is, Evans. Call Burke now. Cancel that portrait sitting.
But suppose I can't.
The hours are passing, Evans, for both of us. Don't make yours any shorter than they have to be. How long have you been standing in that doorway, Miss Winters?
I couldn't sleep. I came down to find something to read.
To read or to listen?
I don't understand.
I see. Innocence in a dressing gown. But don't stand on the threshold of that door, poised. Get in here. Come in here, Miss Winters.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't know anyone was down in here.
Well, now you know. Will you join me, please? Now, just supposing you tell me how long you were standing in that doorway.
I just got there when you saw me.
How much of my phone conversation did you overhear?
None of it. And why should I be interested in your phone conversation?
Because you've been snooping and prying ever since you came here. Because you've been getting yourself involved into matters that don't concern you in the least.
That isn't true.
Let me advise you, Miss Winters. The more probing you do, the sooner you'll be sent back where you came from.
I think you better tell your sister that.
My sister feels exactly the way as I do.
Oh, is that what you think? Well, perhaps you don't know that earlier this evening I tried to leave and she talked me out of it.
What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I told your sister I thought that she needs somebody new to take care of David. And she insisted that I stay.
Then Elizabeth is a... I'm sure my sister had her reasons. But they too can change if circumstances change. If you did hear any of that conversation, forget it. Pretend that it never existed. I'm telling you this for your own good. Do I make myself clear enough?
Quite clear.
Then good night.
time is it, Pop?
I wouldn't know.
Whew. It's 1:15. Don't you think you ought to hit the sack?
No.
What are you doing, Pop? Plugging for a non-sleep long-distance record?
Go back to sleep, Maggie. Leave me alone.
It's exactly what I intend to do. As soon as I satisfy my inherited curiosity. Who called?
Nobody.
The phone rang, didn't it? That's what woke me.
It was the wrong number.
Try again. I heard you talking to somebody.
I was talking to our friendly local bookmaker, okay? Satisfied? Go back to sleep, darling. You're getting those fatigue lines that a pretty little girl like you shouldn't have.
Oh, they run in the family, Pop. And they're not fatigue. It's worry.
You think you know everything, don't you?
Oh, no, not everything. But I do know you. I know you're a wonderful, marvelous human being. And I hate to see you torn apart the way you are.
Then listen to this marvelous, wonderful human being. And go back to sleep.
How about you?
I'll go to bed soon. I promise. There's just something that I have to do.
Another call to your bookmaker?
Well, let's say I'd like to keep the world from falling apart sooner than it has to. Good night, sweetheart. And don't worry.
Tell me to stop breathing while you're at it. Good night, Pop. What do you got there, Pop?
Maggie, I thought you went back to bed.
You know how it is. I tried, no luck. Thought I fixed myself a cup of tea. What is that, a letter?
Maggie, you are the nosiest creature on the face of this earth. Yes, it's a letter. I wrote it. And it's private. Now, if you're going to make some tea, the door is right in there to the kitchen.
You are a fund of information. Well, kettle's on. Who are you writing to, Pop? Your friendly neighborhood bookmaker?
See for yourself.
It's me. This is for me?
That's right.
But you said it was personal and private.
That's right.
That doesn't make any sense. You don't have to write me letters. You can talk to me anytime you want about anything.
Maggie. Maggie, I don't want you opening that letter. Not now. I just want you to put it in a safe place. Keep it there. Don't open it. Don't show it to anybody. Just keep it.
Well, I don't understand.
Well, don't ask any questions, Maggie. Just promise you'll do as I ask.
How can I promise when I don't know what it's...
Because I ask you to. Believe me, darling. The one thing I hope is that you'll never have to open that envelope. That you'll never have to learn that
Learn what?
The kettle's boiling.
Pop, what did you write in this? What's in it?
Maggie, will you turn that kettle off?
Pop,
I want you to keep that letter, Maggie. And I want you to promise me that you will never open it. Unless you hear that something happened to me.
what do you expect could happen to you?
Oh, my friendly bookmaker may want his pound of flesh.
Don't joke with me. This has something to do with Collinwood, doesn't it?
Just keep the letter, Maggie. That's all I ask.
I wish that place would burn to the ground.
That wouldn't do any good. Wouldn't solve any problems. Ghosts of the past don't live in a home. They live inside each man. They fight for his soul. And twist it into something unrecognizable.
Don't talk to me about spooks. No ghost could make you that afraid for your life.
You don't know anything about it. Go get your tea, dear.
No sobbing ghost could have made you write a letter.
I'm going to bed.
It was Roger Collins. I know. Ghosts.
Who is it? Who's there? Who is it? Who's in there? Who is it?
Are you still looking for something to read, Miss Winters?
I heard someone crying.
I see. And do you normally go prowling in the basement of a house when you hear someone crying?
I was trying to get to sleep when I heard it. I told you I've heard it before.
I thought I made it perfectly clear to you that I would not tolerate your constant snooping and prying.
I wasn't snooping. I heard crying behind that door.
That door is locked, as you can see.
But I was sure I... Didn't you hear it?
I have far more important things on my mind, Miss Winters, than the hysterical imagination of a girl who has...
It wasn't imagination. It was real. Someone was crying, I know.
From behind that locked door.
Well, I thought it was.
An old house, Miss Winters, has many strange sounds, and if you go on staying here, you are likely to hear them over and over again. But I will not permit you to use these sounds as an excuse to go wandering where you don't belong.
But didn't you hear it?
I don't want to talk about it anymore, Miss Winters. I don't want you wandering through closed sections of this house, or up in the attic, or down in the basement. I want you to stay where you belong and do what you're supposed to do. Is that clear? I don't want you to do anything else but that. Hello? Who? I'm sorry, but Mrs. Stoddard is asleep. Who wants to speak to her? Ned Calder. Well, why didn't you say so, Ned? Do you have any idea what time it is? I'm sorry, Liz is asleep, and I have no intention of disturbing her.
Mr. Collins.
If you want to speak to her, I think it would be advisable if you called at a reasonable hour. Good night. Now, what do you want?
If that was a Mr. Calder, your sister was very anxious to talk to him.
You really do know everything that goes on in this house, don't you?
I heard her place a call to him earlier this evening. She left word for him to call her back. She said she didn't care how late it was. It was very important that she talk to him.
Were you also hired to serve my sister as a private secretary?
No.
Or maybe your primary function is to teach me the proper manner in taking telephone messages.
You have no right to talk to me like this.
I'll speak to you the way I choose, Miss Winters. I have no intention of telling you what I want to do. If you want to go up and tell my sister this whole thing, you can. Go right ahead. Miss Winters. Wait, please.
What for? Another lecture on my duties?
I'm sorry, Miss Winters. I didn't mean what I said. Do you believe me?
I'm afraid I don't believe you, Mr. Collins.
Please. I want to talk to you. Please? I know you must be angry with me.
Yes, I am.
I've said a good many things tonight. I've been boorish and rude and completely unfriendly.
And without reason.
And I certainly wouldn't blame you if you went up and repeated everything to my sister, but I'd really rather you didn't. I mean, really, why burden Elizabeth with our petty quarrels?
It was hardly a petty quarrel.
Well, I know it, and you're completely right, and I do deeply apologize. But lately I've had all of these pressures on me from many directions. Oh, you do understand, don't you?
Well, it's still no reason to accuse me of snooping and prying.
Did I say all those words?
Many times.
Well, then I'm prepared to offer you a complete apology for every time, if you will. You see, I'm willing to go to any lengths to be restored to your good favor. No, I really want you to understand that when I shouted those words to you, it was just the pressures and an expression of my tension and not my true feeling for you at all. You do believe me, don't you?
Just what is your true feeling?
Well, that you are a charming and Lovely girl who feels she's in a house of madness and who is understandably troubled by the events around her. Am I correct?
Well,
But more than that, I feel that you have an innate sense of goodness that would overlook a troubled man's impulsive outburst and who really wants to be your friend.
you have a very strange way of showing it.
Well, let's then say simply that we've both been through the Holocaust this evening and that the calm is much the sweeter for it. You do accept my apologies, don't you?
I will if you'll answer one question.
Oh, if I can.
The sobbing, you did hear it, didn't you?
Yes,
What is it? Where does it come from?
I don't know.
But you
I've
must.
heard it many times before, and I honestly can't tell you where it comes from. Maybe it's one of our ghosts.
But it seems so real.
Ghosts can seem real, Miss Winters. They can seem very, very real indeed.
Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production.